The great council chamber floated in space, circling a dead star. Inside, leaders from 1,000 different worlds sat in their seats. Some looked like insects. Others were made of light. Some breathed water instead of air. They had been meeting here for 12,000 years, making laws and keeping peace across the galaxy. Humans were the newest members. They had only been here for 30 years. Most of the older species thought humans were like children trying to play adult games. They smiled when humans spoke. They ignored human complaints. They treated Earth like it did not matter. Today, Ambassador Jiwan stood in front of them all. She was a small woman with tired eyes. Next to her stood Commander Minho in his dark blue uniform. Behind them, Hyejin watched everything on her computer screen, writing down every word, every insult, every dismissal. The problem was simple. The Vorkwall had blocked 7 human colony worlds. 7 million people were starving. Ships could not bring food. Ships could not bring medicine. Children were dying while the council talked about rules and procedures. High Chancellor Thren of the Vorkwall looked like a giant mantis wrapped in metal armor. He clicked his jaws when he spoke. It sounded like laughter. The humans knew better. It was contempt. The humans violated our sacred breeding grounds, Thren said. His voice came through translators, cold and sharp. They knew the rules. We have shown great mercy by not destroying their worlds completely. It was a lie. The breeding grounds were just empty asteroid fields. The humans had checked everything. They had followed every law. They had filed every report. But then miners found cavorite in those asteroids. Cavorite was worth trillions. Suddenly the Vorkwall claimed the asteroids had always been sacred. Nobody in the council cared about the truth. They just wanted to watch. It was entertainment to them. Watch the young species beg. Watch them learn their place. Jiwan stood up. The chamber went quiet, not because they respected her, because they wanted to hear what the human would say. Would she beg? Would she cry? Would she threaten? Honored members of the council, Jiwan began. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the huge room. For 30 years we have followed your laws. Every single one. We have listened to your advice. We have endured insults. We have watched you steal from us. We have accepted sabotage. Now we watch our people starve. She paused. Commander Minho did not move. His face showed nothing, but his jaw was tight. We have done all this because humanity believes in civilization. We believe in law. We believe that reason can defeat violence. We wanted to be part of something better. Some of the aliens shifted in their seats. This did not sound like begging. You think we are weak because we negotiate. You think we are helpless because we have not fought back. You believe our patience proves we are inferior. Jiwan's voice grew harder. You are wrong. Dangerously wrong. Hyejin touched her screen. The hologram in the center of the room came to life. Images appeared. Human warships, yes, but also other things. Weapons the council had never seen before. Devices that could bend space itself. Energy beams that operated at impossible levels. Missiles that flew at nearly the speed of light. Biological weapons that made every known plague look harmless. The chamber was completely silent now. We developed these weapons hundreds of years ago, Jiwan continued. Every human colony has defense systems you cannot detect. Every human ship carries weapons we have never used. We have hidden our strength because we wanted to be better than what we were, better than what we are capable of being. Now there was nervous movement among the delegates, whispers in 100 languages. Thren had stopped clicking his jaws. This is your warning. Your only warning. Jiwan's words cut through the whispers like a knife. End the blockade. Return what you have stolen. Learn to treat us as equals, or learn why humanity spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war before we ever left our homeworld. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. She sat down. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens shouted. Some threatened. Some laughed nervously. High Chancellor Thren clicked his jaws again, but this time it sounded forced. Empty threats, Thren announced. Humans bluff because they are desperate. The blockade will continue. In fact, we will send more ships. Let us see if the humans dare to act. Many in the council agreed. They voted to do nothing. They voted to let the blockade stand. Some even voted to support the Vorkwall claim to the asteroid fields. The humans had been put in their place. As the human delegation walked out of the chamber, Commander Minho leaned close to Jiwan. His voice was barely a whisper. When do we begin? Jiwan did not look at him. She kept walking, her face calm. But her words were ice. They had their warning. Now they get their answer. Behind them, the council continued arguing. They debated procedures. They discussed protocols. They felt safe in their ancient chamber, protected by 12,000 years of tradition. They did not know that everything was about to change. They did not know that humanity had been preparing for this moment since before they reached the stars. They did not know that patience and restraint are not the same as weakness. On Earth, deep in military command centers buried beneath mountains, quiet orders were given. Ships began to move. Weapon systems powered up. Soldiers checked their equipment. Scientists armed devices that had sat dormant for decades, hoping they would never be needed. In the colony worlds under blockade, people watched the stars and waited. They were hungry. They were scared, but they had heard Ambassador Jiwon's words. They had seen the broadcasts. They knew help was coming. And in the vast darkness between stars, in places where no sensors could detect them, human warships waited. Silent. Patient. Ready. They had been waiting for 30 years. They could wait a little longer, but not much longer. The Vorqual thought they had won. The Council thought the matter was settled. The galaxy thought humans had been taught their lesson. They were all wrong. The warning had been given. The warning had been ignored. Now would come something the galaxy had not seen in 12,000 years. Now would come retribution. Not the violent, mindless kind. Not the cruel, vindictive kind. But the precise, calculated, overwhelming kind. The kind that humanity had spent 10,000 years learning to deliver. The kind that would change everything. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you mistook patience for weakness, when you confused restraint with inability, when you pushed too far, took too much, and ignored too many warnings. They were about to learn that humans had not forgotten how to be dangerous. They had simply chosen not to be. Until now. 2 days passed. The Vorqual High Command sat in orbit around their home planet. The space station was huge, the size of a small moon. Inside, Fleet Admiral Kreth watched his screens with satisfaction. 300 warships surrounded the human colonies. Not a single supply ship had gotten through. He watched another transmission from Ambassador Jiwon. She was asking again. Begging, really. Her words were careful and polite, but Kreth could hear the desperation underneath. The humans were breaking. Soon they would surrender completely. Then the Vorqual would take everything they wanted. Should we start bombing the colonies? His officer asked. The young Vorqual named Thesh was eager. Make them surrender faster? Kreth thought about it. Not yet. Let them starve a few more weeks. Break their spirits first. Then we can. Every screen went black. All at once. Every display, every monitor, every system. Complete darkness, emergency lights kicked in. Red glow filled the command center. When the main screens came back online, they showed something impossible. 50 human warships. Right there, 3 kilometers away from the station. Perfect formation. They had not been there a second ago. No warning, no sensor alerts, no gravitational disturbance. They just appeared. Kreth jumped to his feet. Battle stations. Activate all weapons. Defense fleet, respond immediately. Nothing happened. The weapons did not respond. The defense fleet did not answer. 200 Vorqual warships floated around the home planet, but they were all dead in space. Their reactors were off. Their weapons were off. Everything was off. A message came through. Commander Minho appeared on every screen in the command center. His face was hard as stone. Fleet Admiral Kreth, I am Commander Minho of the Earth Defense Corps. You were warned. You chose not to listen. Now you will understand 3 things. He held up one finger. First, our stealth technology. You cannot see us. Your sensors are toys compared to ours. We can go anywhere we want. You will never know we are there until we want you to know. A second finger. Second, our electronic warfare. We control your systems better than you do. Right now, your fleet cannot fire a single shot. Your planetary shields are down. Your communications work only because we allow them to work. A third finger. Third, our restraint. If we wanted you dead, you would be dead already. Every ship in your fleet. Every base on your planet. Every military installation in your territory. We could destroy it all in 10 seconds, and there is nothing you could do to stop us. Kreth felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Real, deep, bone-chilling fear. His mandibles trembled. Here are your options, Minho continued. His voice was ice cold. Option 1. You order your blockade fleet to withdraw right now. You pay compensation to the colonies for the harm you caused. You officially recognize human control of the Kepler territories. You have 6 hours to decide. Option 2. You refuse. Then you will learn exactly why humanity built these weapons. You will learn quickly, because you will be inside an expanding cloud of debris when you learn it. The transmission ended. The human ships vanished. Gone. As suddenly as they had appeared. Power returned to the Vorkwall station. The defense fleet reactors restarted. Everything worked perfectly again, except for one thing. Desh stared at his screen. His eyes were wide. Admiral, they left something behind. A file appeared on every computer in the High Command, on every ship in the fleet, even on personal communication devices. The file name was simple. Option 2. Kreth opened it with shaking claws. Inside were detailed maps. Every Vorkwall military base, every secret installation, every hidden weapons platform, all of them marked. Next to each one was a target solution, predicted casualties, estimated time to complete destruction. At the bottom of the file was a single number, 4 hours 17 minutes. That was how long it would take humanity to completely eliminate the Vorkwall military. Every ship, every base, every weapon, gone. Kreth sat down slowly. Around him, his officers stood in shocked silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They all understood what this meant. The humans had not just threatened. They had shown exactly how they would do it. They had proven they could penetrate any defense. They had demonstrated complete control. And they had done it all without firing a single shot. It was brilliant, terrifying, overwhelming. The Vorkwall had fought wars for thousands of years. They had conquered dozens of species. They had never ever felt helpless before. Now they knew how it felt to be on the other side. Admiral? Thesh asked quietly. What do we do? Kreth looked at the file again. 4 hours 17 minutes. He thought about High Chancellor Thren. He thought about the Council. He thought about pride and tradition and 12,000 years of Vorkwall dominance. Then he thought about survival. Open a channel to the human delegation, he said quietly. His voice sounded defeated, old. Tell them we accept their terms. But Admiral, High Chancellor Thren will... High Chancellor Thren is not sitting here looking at his own death. Kreth shouted. Then more quietly, do it. Contact them. Withdraw the blockade. Give them what they want, the message went out. Within an hour, the blockade fleet began pulling back. Within 2 hours, official apologies were being drafted. Within 3 hours, compensation agreements were being signed. The Vorkwall Ascendancy, one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, had been defeated without a battle. Humiliated without bloodshed. Brought to its knees by a species they had dismissed as weak and primitive. On Earth, in a secure command center, Commander Minho watched the Vorkwall fleet withdraw. Ambassador Jiwan stood beside him. Hejin monitored communications from a dozen different sources. The Council is in emergency session, Hejin reported. There is panic. Some species are demanding sanctions against us. Others are calling for military action. A few are asking how they can form alliances with us. Expected, Jiwan said calmly. Fear creates chaos. Chaos creates opportunity. We will use both. What about the Vorkwall? Minho asked. They accepted our terms, but they will hate us forever. This is not over. No, Jiwan agreed. It is not over. It has just begun. But we have proven our point. The galaxy now knows we are not helpless. They know we are not weak. They know we can back up our words with action. She looked at the main display, showing the Vorkwall ships retreating, showing human colonies celebrating, showing the galaxy in turmoil. Now comes the hard part, she said. Now we have to teach them that strength without cruelty is possible. That power without oppression is achievable. That a new order can be better than the old one. Minho nodded slowly. And if they do not learn? Jiwan's expression did not change. Then we teach them again. As many times as necessary, with as much force as required, but always with the goal of building something better, not just destroying what exists. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humans had challenged the Vorkwall. Humans had won. Humans had weapons nobody knew about. Humans were dangerous. Humans were powerful. Humans could not be ignored anymore. But the real message was deeper. Humans had shown restraint. They had demonstrated mercy. They could have destroyed everything, but they chose not to. That made them more frightening, not less, because it meant their strength was controlled, directed, purposeful. They were not savage. They were strategic, and that was far more dangerous. The emergency council meeting was chaos. Ambassadors shouted at each other in 100 different languages. Some demanded action against humanity. Others urged caution. A few sat in silent shock, still processing what had happened to the mighty Vorkwal fleet. Ambassador Jiwan stood calmly at the human podium. The noise washed over her like waves against stone. She had expected this, planned for it. This was the moment that would define everything that came after. A crystalline being called Shard of Dawn spoke first. Its voice chimed like breaking glass through the translators. You threatened an entire species with extinction. You violated every principle this council stands for. This proves what we always knew. Humans are savages pretending to be civilized. Many delegates agreed loudly. They called for sanctions. Some wanted humanity expelled from the council. Others whispered about military action, about striking Earth before humans could strike them. Hyejin leaned close to Jiwan. This is getting bad. Maybe we should— No, Jiwan whispered back. They need to understand the truth. All of it, she stood. Somehow, despite all the noise, the chamber fell silent. This time it was real attention. They had learned that when humans spoke, they meant every word. Let me tell you about humanity, Jiwan began. You mock us because we are young. You see our few worlds, our small territory, our limited resources. You assume this means weakness. You are wrong. Hyejin activated the hologram. Images of Earth appeared, beautiful, green and blue. Then the images changed. Cities burning, mushroom clouds, plagues spreading, armies clashing. Humanity spent 10,000 years on one single world, Jiwan continued. One planet. And we spent those 10,000 years fighting each other for every scrap of land, every resource, every difference in belief. The images showed horrors, wars that killed millions, weapons that poisoned entire continents, diseases weaponized and unleashed, nuclear fire, chemical death, biological nightmares, technology turned into instruments of destruction. We survived a dozen extinction events of our own making. We learned to kill with stones, with metal, with fire, with disease, with splitting atoms, with editing genes, with turning information itself into a weapon. Every new technology we weaponized. Every weapon we perfected. Some of the aliens shifted uncomfortably. Many species in the galaxy had never experienced real war. Their evolution had been peaceful. Their expansion had been easy. They did not understand what it meant to fight for survival against your own kind for millennia. Then we reached space, Jiwan said, and we had a choice. We could be what we had always been, killers, conquerors, monsters, or we could try to be something better. We chose better. We chose restraint. We chose civilization. She paused, looking around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. But choosing to be better does not mean forgetting how to be worse. Every human child studies military history. Every colony maintains weapon systems from eras you never experienced. We remember everything we learned in that crucible of blood and fire, and we keep it ready. The hologram shifted again. More human weapons appeared. Nanoclouds that could dissolve entire fleets at the molecular level. Gravity bombs that could crack planets like eggs. Weapons that attacked minds instead of bodies. Systems that could target enemies across faster-than-light distances. The chamber was completely silent now. Even Shard of Dawn had stopped chiming. We showed mercy to the Vorkwal, Jiwan said. We disabled their fleet without killing anyone. We gave them a chance to surrender peacefully. But understand this clearly. That mercy is not infinite. We will defend ourselves. We will protect our people. And if forced, we will remind this galaxy why humans survived 10,000 years of trying to destroy each other. Shard of Dawn resonated with anger. This is terrorism, extortion. You threaten the peace of the entire— Commander Minho stood up for the first time. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. Peace? You call this peace? Your laws protect the powerful and punish the weak. You allowed 7 million humans to starve while you debated rules. Where was your peace then? Nobody answered. The silence was heavy and uncomfortable. Your peace has been built on convenient lies, Minho continued. You pretend the system is fair while older species exploit younger ones. You pretend justice exists while the strong steal from the weak. You call us savages, but you created a galaxy where might makes right. We are just better at might than you expected. Jiwan stepped forward. Here is what happens next. The Council can work with us, reform these institutions, create real justice instead of pretty lies. Or the Council can try to suppress us, punish us for refusing to accept second-class status. She looked at each major power's representative in turn. But know this, if you choose to fight us, you will lose, not because we want war, not because we seek empire, but because we are very, very good at survival. We will do whatever is necessary to ensure our species survives and thrives. You cannot threaten the entire galaxy, another delegate shouted. We are not threatening, Jiwan replied calmly. We are explaining. There is a difference. A threat is empty words meant to intimidate. An explanation is a statement of fact. The Vorqual learned the difference. Anyone else who wishes to test us will learn it too. The human delegation walked out. Behind them, the Council descended into chaos again. Some wanted immediate action. Others counseled patience. A few wise ones wondered if maybe, just maybe, the humans had a point about the Council's corruption. But in the shadows, in the private meeting rooms, in the encrypted communications between military leaders, a different conversation began. The powerful species of the galaxy started talking, quietly, carefully, about the human problem, about the threat they represented, about what would happen if they were allowed to continue. They had seen what humanity did to the Vorqual. They understood humans were dangerous, but they also believed in their own strength, in their own numbers. They thought if they worked together, coordinated their efforts, they could eliminate the human threat before it grew larger. They were making the same mistake the Vorqual had made. They were confusing human patience with human weakness. They were about to learn, as the Vorqual had learned, that humans did not bluff, that humans did not threaten idly, that when humans gave a warning, it was the only warning anyone would get. 5 major powers met in secret: the Telkari, the Vexilon, the Siltari, the Kron, and seeking revenge, the Vorqual. They called it Operation Cascade. They planned to strike 12 human colonies at once, force humanity to spread thin, then hit Earth with everything they had, 2,000 warships, 10 times what the Vorqual had deployed alone. Surely, they thought, surely this would be enough. Humans were strong, yes, but they were also few. They could not defend everywhere at once. Numbers would win. Numbers always won. They set the date, 72 hours. They planned in secret. They maintained perfect security. They told no one outside their inner circles. They were sure humanity would never see it coming. They were wrong about that too. On Earth, in the secure command center, Heejin brought the report to Jiwan and Minho. She laid out the intelligence. 5 species, 2,000 ships, 72 hours. They believe their planning is secret, Heejin said. They believe we have no idea. They believe they will catch us unprepared. Minho studied the tactical display. 2,000 ships. That is substantial. If they coordinate well, if they strike simultaneously, they could do real damage before we respond. So we do not let them strike, Jiwan said quietly. We knew this was coming. We knew someone would try. Now we show them why trying was a mistake. We show them what happens when you plan genocide against humanity. We could ambush them in transit, Minho suggested. Hit them while they are in FTL, scattered and vulnerable. No, Jiwan said. We let them come. We let them think they have surprise. We let them commit fully. And then we show them that humans do not just have better technology. We have better intelligence, better strategy, better preparation. We show them that fighting us is not just difficult. It is impossible. She looked at both of them. And we do it without killing anyone. We prove that our strength is precise, controlled, overwhelming. We prove that we can win without becoming the monsters they fear. That is how we change this galaxy. Not through slaughter, but through demonstration. Minho nodded slowly. It will require perfect coordination, perfect timing, perfect execution. Then that is what we will deliver, Jiwan replied. Alert all commands. Prepare the fleets. In 72 hours we teach the galaxy one final lesson. After this they will understand, completely and forever. 72 hours later, 2,000 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel. They appeared at 12 human colony worlds simultaneously. The coordination was perfect. The timing was flawless. It was the largest military operation the galaxy had seen in centuries. Grand Admiral Velcor of the Silthari commanded the force targeting Earth. She was a legend. 2 centuries of military service. 17 major conflicts, never defeated. Her fur shimmered with pride as her 500 ships dropped into Earth's solar system. The human colonies looked defenseless. A few orbital platforms, some patrol ships, nothing that could stand against this overwhelming force. The colonists were evacuating, scrambling for transport ships exactly as the coalition had predicted. All ships prepare weapons, Velcor ordered. Her voice was steady with certainty. Target evacuation routes first. Break their spirit. Show them resistance is... Reality broke. That was the only way her crew could describe it later. One moment they were preparing to attack. The next moment space itself seemed to tear apart and birth an armada. 3,000 human warships materialized. Not 50, not 100, 3,000. They surrounded the coalition fleet in perfect formation. Every coalition ship had 3 human vessels targeting it. The positioning was so precise it looked impossible. Because it was impossible. Unless you had technology the galaxy did not know existed. They had not come through normal FTL. They had not decloaked. They simply appeared as if they had always been there and reality was just now catching up. Commander Minho's face appeared on every screen of every coalition ship. His expression held no anger, no hatred. Just cold, calculated certainty. To all coalition forces, you came here to destroy us, to eliminate what you see as a threat, to teach us our place in the galaxy. Instead, you are about to learn something else entirely. A tactical display appeared beside him. It showed every coalition ship, but it also showed more. Every secret military base of every species in the coalition. Every hidden weapons platform. Every command bunker. The data was perfect, complete, terrifying in its accuracy. We knew about your plan within 6 hours of your first meeting. We have been watching, listening, preparing. We could have stopped this before it began. We could have struck your homeworlds while your fleets came here. We could have ended this war before the first shot was fired. Minho paused. Let that information sink in. Let them understand how completely they had been outplayed. But we did not do any of those things, because we meant what we said. We want peace. We want civilization. We want a galaxy where species can coexist without the strong preying on the weak. But understand this clearly. We are the strong now, and we will not be prey. Ambassador Jiwon's face joined Minho's. Every ship in your fleet is surrounded. Every weapon you have is targeted by systems you cannot detect. We are giving you one chance to avoid disaster. Just one. Her voice remained calm, reasonable, but absolutely firm. Power down your weapons. Surrender your ships. You will be treated with dignity. Given medical care. Return to your homes unharmed. But you will return with a message. Tell your governments. Humanity is here to stay. We will defend ourselves. We will protect our people. And we will build a better galaxy. With your cooperation or despite your opposition. The choice has always been yours. Now choose. Grand Admiral Velcor stared at her tactical display. She had fought for 2 centuries. She had studied strategy her entire life. She knew a no-win scenario when she saw one. And this was the most complete no-win scenario she had ever encountered. The humans had not just predicted the attack. They had allowed it to happen. They had let the coalition commit completely. And then they had demonstrated such overwhelming superiority that resistance was not just futile, it was absurd. 3 human ships for every coalition vessel. All in position, all with weapons charged, all with perfect targeting solutions. It would not be a battle. It would be an execution. And the humans were offering to not execute them. Velcor thought about pride, about tradition, about the shame of surrender. Then she thought about the 2,000 ships under her command. The millions of lives aboard them. The families waiting for them to return home. All ships, she said quietly. The words tasted like poison. Stand down. Power down weapons systems. Prepare for surrender protocols. Across 12 systems, the same decision was being made. Admiral after admiral, commander after commander, they all reached the same conclusion. They had lost before the battle began. The only question was whether they would accept that loss with dignity or with destruction. They chose survival. 2,000 warships lowered their weapons and submitted to human authority. Not a single shot was fired, not a single casualty taken. The largest military operation in galactic history ended without a battle. On Earth, in the command center, Minho watched the coalition fleet surrender. Jiwon stood beside him. Hyejin monitored thousands of communication channels, ensuring everything proceeded smoothly. It worked, Hyejin said with quiet relief. All 12 sites. Complete surrender. No casualties on either side. Of course it worked, Jiwon replied. We gave them no other choice. When you demonstrate such overwhelming superiority that fighting is obviously suicide, rational beings choose survival. What now? Minyo asked. We have 2,000 ships, thousands of prisoners, and a galaxy watching. Now we show mercy, Jiwon said. We treat them well. We care for their wounded. We feed them. We give them comfortable quarters. And in a few weeks we send them home with full honors. We prove that humans can win without cruelty. That power does not require oppression. Some will say we should have destroyed them, Minho observed. That we showed weakness by letting them live. Some will always say that, Jiwon agreed. But those people do not understand strategy. Dead enemies create martyrs. Living enemies who were shown mercy become allies. Or at least they become cautious. They tell their people that humans could have killed them but chose not to. That is a far more powerful message than any number of destroyed ships. Hyejin pulled up reports from across the galaxy. The Council is in emergency session again. Species that were not part of the coalition are scrambling to contact us. Everyone wants to know what we will do next. Some are offering alliances. Others are begging for non-aggression pacts. Fear, Minho said. They are terrified. Good, Jiwon replied. Fear makes them listen. Fear makes them take us seriously. Fear makes them consider that maybe, just maybe, cooperation is better than conflict. We will use that fear to build something better. In the coalition ship, soldiers and officers sat in confusion. They had expected death or imprisonment. Instead, human medical teams were treating their wounded. Human supply ships were bringing food and water. Human officers were polite, professional, even respectful. Grand Admiral Velcor found herself in a clean, comfortable room aboard a human carrier. A young human officer, barely more than a child by Silthari standards, brought her a meal suited to her species' dietary needs. Why? Velcor asked the officer. We came to destroy you. Why show us mercy? The young officer considered the question seriously. Because that is who we choose to be. Because we believe mercy is strength, not weakness. Because we want a galaxy where former enemies can become friends. And because, Admiral, we hope that someday you will remember this moment and choose mercy too. The officer left. Velcor sat alone with her meal and her thoughts. She had lost, completely, absolutely, but she was alive. Her crews were alive, and they were being treated not as enemies but as guests. Uncomfortable guests, perhaps. Unwilling guests. But guests nonetheless. For the first time in 2 centuries of military service, Velcor began to wonder if perhaps strength and brutality were not the same thing. If perhaps victory did not require slaughter. If perhaps humans understood something about war that the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. In the weeks that followed, the coalition prisoners were processed, documented, and prepared for return. True to their word, humans treated everyone with dignity. Medical care was provided freely. Food was abundant. Recreation was allowed. Some prisoners even found themselves in friendly conversations with human guards. When the ships finally departed for their homeworlds, they carried more than just soldiers. They carried a message. Humans were powerful beyond measure, but they were also merciful. They could destroy, but they chose to spare. They could conquer, but they chose to cooperate. That message spread across the galaxy faster than any military force could move. And slowly, reluctantly, fearfully, the galaxy began to change. Not because humanity forced it, but because humanity proved that change was possible, that a better way existed, that strength and mercy could coexist. The retribution had come, but it looked nothing like what anyone expected. It looked like justice. It looked like restraint. It looked like the beginning of something new. 5 years passed. The Galactic Council chamber looked the same, but everything had changed. The old rules that favored the powerful were gone. New laws protected younger species. Disputes were resolved fairly. Military actions required proof of necessity. Economic exploitation was monitored and punished. Ambassador Jiwon, now Council Secretary General, watched the session with quiet satisfaction. The reforms she had demanded 5 years ago were now reality. The galaxy she had dreamed of was taking shape, slowly, imperfectly, but undeniably. Not everyone was happy. The Silthari delegation still glared at humans. The Vorqual maintained cold silence. but they followed the rules. They accepted the new order. They had learned their lesson. Today was special. The Junior Species Alliance was meeting with the full council for the first time. 30 species who had gained real political power through human reforms. Their voices now mattered. Their votes now counted. The old empires could no longer ignore them. Shard of Dusk, the Telkari who had warned humanity about the conspiracy 5 years ago, proposed a galaxy-wide research initiative. It would share technology, pool resources, advance every species together instead of separately. The Vexillon supported it. Even the Siltari did not oppose it. Admiral Minho watched from the observation gallery. He wore his uniform proudly now. Around him stood military representatives from dozens of species. Some were here to learn human tactics. Some were here out of genuine friendship. A few still came out of fear. Minho accepted them all. Fear could become respect. Respect could become trust. And trust could build something lasting. A young lieutenant approached him. Fresh from the academy, bright-eyed and curious. Sir, they say you were there when everything changed. When we showed the galaxy what we could do. Do you ever regret it? Revealing our strength? Minho considered the question carefully. Below, the vote passed unanimously. The research initiative would proceed. Former enemies were now working together. It seemed impossible, but it was happening. Every day, he admitted honestly. Revealing your weapons is always a risk. But I regret more what would have happened if we had not. Sometimes the only way to avoid using your weapons is to prove you have them. Sometimes the only way to achieve peace is to show the cost of war. He gestured to the chamber below. Look at what we built. 5 years ago, species that tried to destroy each other are now voting together, working together, building together. That makes every difficult choice worth it. The lieutenant nodded, perhaps understanding, perhaps not yet. She would face her own difficult choices someday. But she would face them in a galaxy where humanity had already proven something important. That strength and mercy were not opposites. That victory did not require cruelty. That civilization and survival could coexist. That evening, Jiwan returned to Earth for the first time in months. She stood in her apartment in Seoul, looking out at the city lights. Behind her, reports scrolled across screens. Colony populations growing, trade agreements expanding, scientific collaborations producing breakthroughs. The new order was working. A message arrived from Minho. The Vexillon are serious about sharing stealth technology. They want to learn from us. They are offering their own advances in quantum computing in exchange. Should we accept? Jiwan smiled slightly. This was the real work. Not intimidation. Not displays of force, but negotiation, compromise, building trust one agreement at a time. It was harder than war, more complex. But it was the only way to create something lasting. She typed her response. Schedule a meeting. Make it clear that cooperation works both ways. We share, they share. We trust, they trust. That is the foundation we are building. That is the only foundation worth having. She sent the message and looked back out at the city. Seoul had survived wars, invasions, occupations. It had been destroyed and rebuilt more times than she could count. But it endured. It thrived. Because humans understood something fundamental. That survival required not just strength but also adaptability. Not just power but also wisdom. The galaxy was learning that lesson now. Some learned willingly. Others learned reluctantly. A few still resisted. But they all learned eventually. Because humans had proven something that could not be denied. They had shown their teeth. And then they had shown that those teeth did not always need to bite. On Vorqualis Prime, Fleet Admiral Kreth attended a ceremony honoring the rebuilt defense fleet. 5 years ago, humans had humiliated that fleet, disabled it without firing a shot, proven its complete inadequacy. The shame still burned, but the new fleet was different. Built with human consultation, incorporating lessons learned from that defeat. The Vorqual had swallowed their pride and asked for help, and humans, instead of gloating, had helped, generously, professionally. Without demanding submission, Kreth still did not like humans. But he respected them, respected their strength, their discipline, their ability to win without destroying. That respect had slowly become something else. Not friendship exactly, but acceptance, understanding. A grudging acknowledgement that maybe humans had been right about some things. On the Siltari homeworld, Grand Admiral Velkor retired from military service. 2 centuries of war were enough. She had seen everything, won everything. And then, at the end, she had learned that winning was not always about fighting. She wrote her memoirs, detailed accounts of her campaigns. But the final chapter was different. It talked about the humans, about how they had defeated her without killing anyone, about how they had treated her with dignity even in surrender, about how sometimes the strongest warriors were the ones who knew when not to fight. Young Silthari officers would read those memoirs for generations. They would learn tactics and strategy, but they would also learn something else, something their species had forgotten in their centuries of conquest. That true strength included mercy, that real victory meant building peace, not just winning wars. Across the galaxy, change rippled outward. Slowly at first, then faster. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking, trading, cooperating. Not because they suddenly loved each other, but because humanity had proven cooperation was more profitable than conflict. Junior species found their voices. The oppressed found protection. The exploited found justice. The council transformed from a tool of the powerful into something approaching actual governance. It was messy, imperfect, full of compromises and setbacks. But it was better. Measurably, undeniably better. And humans, the species that had been dismissed as young and weak and primitive, became something unexpected. Not conquerors, not overlords, but architects, teachers, examples. They showed what was possible when strength served justice instead of dominating it. 10 years after the warning, 20 years, 50, the changes deepened. The new order solidified. Wars became rare. Exploitation became shameful. Cooperation became normal. The galaxy that had existed for 12,000 years transformed into something new. And when historians looked back, they marked a clear division. Before humans and after humans, before the warning and after the retribution, before the old galaxy and after the new one, but the humans themselves never forgot where they came from. Never forgot the 10,000 years of warfare that forged them. Never forgot that their restraint was a choice, not an inability. Every generation learned the history. Every child studied the wars. Every colony maintained its defenses, because humans understood something the galaxy was still learning. That peace was not the absence of the ability to make war. Peace was the choice not to make war when you could, and that choice had to be made every single day. Ambassador Jiwan, in her final address before retiring, said it simply. We showed the galaxy our weapons because we needed them to take us seriously, but we showed them our mercy because we needed them to trust us. Both were necessary. Both will always be necessary. Strength without kindness is tyranny. Kindness without strength is vulnerability. We chose to have both. That choice made all the difference. The galaxy had been warned. Diplomacy had failed. Retribution had come. But that retribution looked nothing like anyone expected. It looked like justice delivered with precision, like strength tempered by mercy, like the careful construction of something better from the ashes of something broken. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. They did not impose their will by force. They simply showed what was possible. They proved that the strong did not have to dominate, that the capable did not have to exploit, that winners did not have to destroy losers. They proved that a better way existed, and slowly, reluctantly, sometimes kicking and screaming, the galaxy followed. Not because humans forced them, but because humans showed them a path worth walking, a future worth building, a dream worth believing in. The warning had been simple. We are holding back. Stop pushing. Learn to coexist. The retribution had been just as simple. We will defend ourselves with overwhelming force, but we will do so with precision and mercy. The lesson was the simplest of all. Strength and kindness together are more powerful than either alone. And in that lesson, in that demonstration, in that choice to be both powerful and merciful, humanity gave the galaxy something it had not had in 12,000 years. Hope. Real, tangible hope that things could be better. That progress was possible. That the future did not have to repeat the past. That was the true retribution. Not destruction. Not conquest.